Welcome to Parenting on Empty. This is podcast number 7.
I need a ride to soccer practice and a ride to swimming lessons and a ride to piano lessons.
And I need a ride to school.
So we're going to talk today about the temptation that parents frequently have, us included, to over-involve their children in lots of extracurricular activities. The pressure that we feel maybe from peers to do so, the pressure that the kids bring to bear on us, and just kind of trying to have a discussion about how do you monitor your decisions, what kinds of criteria do you use to make those decisions, and maybe talk about whether we think we're doing a very good job with that or not.
It could be a peer pressure thing too, because parents want the best for their kids and they look around and see other parents and they're involving their kids in a lot of activities. And they think, well, gee, maybe my kid should be doing that too.
Teens and preteens to get involved in either sports or drama or speech or singing or band or pretty much any possible activity you could think of. There's a club out there. There's after-school activities that are provided by the school system, and the churches provide different activities for their youth groups. And then, of course, you have your kids who just have friends, and they want to get together with their friends as well. So,
right. Also, these activities, the school would sponsor, band and acting and different programs, and a lot of that funding has gone away. Individual groups, private groups have started to sponsor these different activities because they're their own independent entity. They want loyalty from their participants, from each student. And so if you're going to participate in this program, they want a lot of your time and a lot of your attention.
Yeah. And there's, as you mentioned, there's just more competition because the schools have not neglected entirely those kinds of activities. And so they are still offering some things, but then you do have a lot of the other community options as well.
Right.
And if you have a social child, like our 13-year-old is, they want to be involved in everything. If the school is offering it, every time the school has something that the child can get involved in, she would like to be involved in it. And then she looks at these extracurricular activities. We get postcards from our church that tell us here are the things that are being offered this month, outings and different activities that the group is going to do together. And then there are local groups that send out information about theater activities and local sport groups that are doing things. And she would like to do quite a few of those things. And then she certainly is always asking if she can get together with the million friends that she has.
Right. And I guess that's what we're talking about specifically with our 13-year-old, because she wants to do everything. She has an insatiable desire to be out there doing things and getting together and doing social activities. So if you have a child that would just as soon stay home and play Nintendo and you have to push them out the door, that's a different problem. With what we're talking about, some of what we're talking about today is that child like ours who wants to do everything and who is constantly saying, well, what are we doing today? And are we going to be going to this? And can I go to this activity? Can I go here? Can I do this?
So with her, it's kind of like holding wild horses back.
Yes.
And we work very hard at trying to figure out, so how do we choose which activities we say yes to and which activities we say no to? And how do we balance these things with just life? She also has a need for sleep and for inactivity, which she doesn't acknowledge in her own life. So it's our job to kind of impose that structure and those standards on her. And so sometimes we have to say no, not because of the activity, because we think the activity's fine, but no, because she has a need just for some downtime.
It's just a health issue.
Exactly. And sometimes we need some family time. So how do you protect the health, protect the family, and still give your child the opportunities that you think are worthwhile and helpful? And one of the things that has really helped me in making decisions that way is I've tried to really look at both of our children and I ask myself, what are their strengths? What are the things that I notice they're really good at? And with Mariah, our older, something that she's really good at is people. And she also likes to run. And she's a pretty fast runner. She likes to be physically active. So, and we also notice that her emotional and mental stability and health seems to be better if she's physically active. So, and she likes to swim a lot. She loves water. So as we're looking at all of the possibilities of ways that we could get her involved, I'm thinking we need something physical that wears her out. And then we need something that enables her to make contact with other people, whether that be kind of in a team sort of setting or just personally getting together with her friends.
I think, as you said, too, with regards to pacing, that sitting down and even talking about a calendar, I mean, she enjoys that. Some kids might not, but she enjoys knowing what's going to be out there, what's going to happen next, what are we doing tomorrow, what are we doing next week. And so I think that's helpful for her, and it can be helpful for the parent too, to see it written out on a schedule to say, wow, every day of the week is scheduled. That I didn't mean for that to happen.
Right.
So I think if you can say, commit yourself to saying that they do need the activity, they need the social interaction, and then deciding once a week, twice a week is healthy, is good. And then you can say, all right, based on what we've decided, then let's look at the calendar and say, here's what we're going to do.
And actually, if you do write it down on a calendar like that, it gives a reason to your yeses and nos. Usually, by the time kids reach their teen years, they're at least rational to a certain degree and fairly reasonable. And I think they deserve some explanations for our decisions instead of us just saying nope or yep.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. And I have found that the times that I do write out on the calendar and I show Mariah, you've got something going on here, 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 and here, and you still want to go and do this other activity here, do you notice that that's just way too much happening all at once? When are you going to have downtime? Right. When are you going to relax? When are you going to spend time with the family? When are you going to do any of the family things that need to be done, like even just chores around the house that we need to attend to?
Exactly.
And she is reasonable, and so she looks at that and says, oh, well, yeah, okay. And instead of just saying no, then we look at the calendar and say, well, when could we fit something like that in? Right. Or if you really want to do this other activity, you're going to have to give something else up. And it's a wonderful lesson that a child needs to learn in growing up, that there's always an opportunity cost.
Right.
You want to do one thing, it usually means you can't do something else. And so I feel like she has become much more wise in her choices and is less quick to say, well, why? And sort of whine about why we're not letting her go someplace. She's always disappointed when we say no.
Right.
That's a normal emotion and it's perfectly fine. But she accepts it and understands it a lot better. And then she just immediately starts making plans for, well, when else, I wonder, would be a reasonable time for us to do this?
Yeah. And one thing, too, when you talk about needing the downtime and needing some time just to be still, one of the things that we're just on the cusp of, and we're trying to get our act together and do this more often, is actually make downtime an activity where we get together as a family and we can sing some songs and just have some reflective moments. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that could be expanded to say, you know what, for the next, after we've had time just to talk and reflect on some things, we'll have some time just to be alone and have alone with your thoughts. That's not necessarily going to work with a 5-year-old, though, because that could be crazy. But, being more structured with downtime to say this, Tuesday night, 6:00 after dinner, we're going to have a time of being quiet, of being restful, instead of just getting up from the dinner table and going and doing just more stuff. It might be at home, but it's still doing and, can I call my friends and all that type of stuff.
It doesn't have to just be being quiet. I mean, you can just get a coloring book. There are certain things that are slightly mindless and that allow you just to kind of focus on that particular activity, and it lets your mind sort of relax. Coloring in a coloring book, all you're thinking about is what is the next color I'm going to select. And you could all sit around the table and do something like that. Or you could, I don't know. I'm not coming up with another idea.
Well, it's like you said, it's something that doesn't demand a lot of things. And I think we're kind of kidding ourselves if we think, well, just if they sit in front of a television set, that's pretty non-demanding, because it's still...
It's engaging the brain in some way.
Depending on the kid.
It can terribly active. But
it can hype them up. Yeah. I mean, certainly with our 5-year-old, we're
going for a walk. That's another example.
Yes.
And just enjoying. I try to, as I go for walks with the kids, to point out the things to enjoy, that we're not just doing physical activity. We're not just exercising. That we are enjoying the atmosphere that we are walking through.
Right.
So we live out in the country. We have beautiful trees, listening to the wind blow through the trees. Every time we see a wild animal, pointing it out. Just looking at the little flowers along the way and letting our 5-year-old stop every 5 seconds and pick those. And I mean, she even finds stones fascinating. And so just exploring and enjoying, and that it too is stimulating, but it's stimulating in a completely different kind of way because it demands nothing of you. You can interact with it if you want. You don't have to interact with it if you don't want. You can just let it sort of pass you by.
Right.
So it's just kind of an imaginative, encouraging wonder sort of relaxation, instead of allowing someone else to be throwing information at you and you have to absorb it and figure out what's going on with it and do something with it.
Exactly. So what are your thoughts about that with regards to, is that if you're a family that just is going crazy with a busy schedule and your house is Grand Central Station, is it need to be combated by having a rigid schedule of downtime to say, no, on Thursday nights at 6:00, we're going for a walk, or we're going to do the coloring time, or, whatever it is. Or is it say, we're going to just back away from the busy schedule and just enjoy being together as a family, and whatever we do as a family, we're going to do it, but we're not going to just go from one busy schedule to have another schedule that is based around quiet time or based around family time.
Yeah, I think it probably just depends on your personalities. Mm-hmm. We have tried the structure kind of thing, and because of the way my personality is, if it's structured, I feel obligated to follow the structure. And so it becomes a pressure, and it becomes an anxiety and something else I have to put on my to-do list. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to learn to set up a schedule and recognize they're guidelines. They're not the code. They're not regulations. They're just guidelines. So trying to see a schedule as this, in an ideal world, is the way we would do it. Now I recognize that things happen in life. And a week may come where we're not going to be able to have our downtime on Thursday night or on Sunday afternoon after church. That's okay. But we're constantly aware that that's on our agenda, and that while it seems artificial to have to make it happen, it seems like it should just happen.
Right.
But whether it's artificial or not, at least in our lives, and as we recognize that our tendency is to sort of get on the treadmill and never get off, that it's important that we say, we this week have not had any downtime. So we just need to stop. Wherever we are, we need to stop.
Right.
Even if it means canceling something that we really wanted to do. and rescheduling it. But I think it's, for me, for my personality, it's, okay, put it on the calendar and try to follow it, but don't see it as another rigid thing, because then you sort of defeat your purpose.
Right.
So you're flexible with it, but it's more of an attitude, a recognition that we are always looking for ways that we can release the tension, that we can reduce the pressure to perform and to go out and join the rat race.
Exactly. You know, as we're talking about this, you come to realize that even the term busy or hectic, we've got a hectic schedule, that's a fairly relative term as you start to dissect that with different individuals and say, well, what exactly do you mean by hectic? Describe your day. You know, it could be from everything, well, I have to go to the grocery store and then come home and make lunch. This just is going to be a crazy day, to, you've got something going every 30 minutes. So it's a bit of a relative term. It's what you can handle, and it's what you're able to take on. For me, I think what is important is that you are making connections with your children, that you're just not taxiing them from one event to the next, and you go through this child rearing experience at the end of it saying, boy, I don't know if I really had time to honestly get to know my kid. I watched them do a lot of stuff, and I was in the bleacher as they, cheering them on, but I didn't really get much time to converse with that child. And that's kind of what we're talking about here with that, is making that time, whether it's a rigid schedule or whether it's just a retreat and we're just going to go someplace and be together.
And I think it's really tempting to think that your child would rather do the other activities. And you sometimes can almost feel guilty about forcing them to spend time with you and the rest of the family, like you're punishing them. And I think it's really important to remind yourself as a parent that kids don't really have perspectives on reality, life, and everything. They just kind of are living for this moment and for how they feel and for what their friends are doing. They're not really thinking about an overall, the impact things are having on their life and on their future and on their formation and all of that.
Right.
That's what we do. And I would really emphasize, and I say this to myself all the time because I sometimes start feeling like I'm crimping her fun by making her stay home on occasion, that she needs us. Both of our kids need us. They need interaction with us. They need time with us. And when they don't get it, I actually start seeing differences in their personality, insecurities that exhibit itself in a variety of different ways. I start seeing attitude differences, and I start seeing almost kind of a restless spirit and a discontentedness that goes away as soon as we spend more time together.
I really think that's true. Obviously, every kid's going to be different, but I really think that spending time face-to-face with your child, I think that's a great way to keep that relationship active and keep it growing, to safeguard it from the distance that can happen so quickly. So your kid turns into this 13-year-old, 14 teenager, and you all of a sudden come to the conclusion you don't know who that child is, or you can't relate. And we've certainly had lots of talks with different parents and saying during those difficult years, we just could not relate. We weren't making connections with each other. Many times that may be impossible to avoid because it just happens. But I believe one way that you can really combat that is to constantly be in communication, taking every opportunity you can to be having opportunities to talk and not competing with another event. Oh, I'd love to talk, but I got to run. I'd love to sit down and have a chat with you, but we've got so much to do. We don't have time. And to me, that's the worst thing, to find yourself in that state where you're so busy that you don't have time to just sit down and have those kind of conversations where you just are touching base.
And once in a while, it's probably a good thing to explain, particularly to older kids, what your philosophy is without getting too terribly deep. But the concept that we value family, mm-hmm. and you will have the family for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how far you move away, you will always come back to family. You will always keep touch with family. And so what we're doing right now is we are building strong ties, strong connections that you will continue to build on for the rest of your life. And while they may not totally understand that, again, they are pretty reasonable people. And if they feel like you have their best interest at heart, which they don't always believe we do, and if we can explain it in a way that they at least semi-understand it, most of the time they respond very well. Oh, you have a reason for it. They don't assume that we have reasons for everything.
Right.
Our 5-year-old is actually a completely different picture than the 13-year-old. She is not real outgoing. She doesn't like to go. She's much more, can't we go home and just stay there for a while?
Right.
While she likes to be active in the sense of she likes to run around, she's also equally content just to sit and stare at the television, be entertained. So for her, I have found the challenge is finding something that she's good at that makes her really want to leave the house. And we have a pool that we put up in the summertime, just an above ground pool. And she really loved swimming in that pool. She was highly motivated. Even when the water was cold, she wanted to get in there and she wanted to stay in there as long as she could and still breathe. And it has convinced me that, okay, one of the activities that I think would be worth the time away from home would be to get her involved in some swimming lessons. She's now entering kindergarten, but didn't really express any deep interest in going to a school, and we had some other plans for her for first grade, so we decided, well, we're going to homeschool her with some online curriculum this year for kindergarten. And I think it was a really good decision. She loves being here. Mm-hmm. She absolutely loves the personal attention that she's getting from both mom and dad every day for at least 2 to 3 hours. And we are going to have to be more intentional to make sure she has some play dates and get some socialization. But for her, I think once a week, some sort of activity, once every 2 weeks, some sort of activity with another child or a group of children will be sufficient.
Yeah.
And she still gets together with kids every Sunday when she goes to church and Sunday school and sees some of her friends. And that seems to be enough for her. She doesn't really need a lot of out time and with other people time.
Right.
But our challenge is to figure out, okay, so what is it important for her to be involved with, even though she doesn't see the importance of this?
Right. I think it can be a pretty daunting task if your kid really is talented and every sporting event or activity that they participate in, they are very good at, and the coach says, "Boy, our team would be nowhere without your kid," and the demands are high, and that makes you feel good. Gee, my kid's very successful, and everybody likes my kid because they do so well and they're so helpful. Again, I think with the balance, you really do have to look at, okay, they're doing good things and good things are happening, but as you stated earlier, with just watching your child to see how emotionally balanced are they, physically, how healthy are they getting sick every 2 or 3 weeks because they're just run down. They're not getting the rest, and they're not getting the opportunity to recuperate. So I think that's real important, that we just be good advocates for their emotional stability, for their physical well-being.
Are they developing into a balanced, whole person?
Yeah.
And I teach at a university level, so I teach college students. And I always find it both sad and disconcerting when I teach freshman college writing, and I have students write papers about a place or a time or an event that was significant to them. And for many, especially the young men, but even some of the young women, for many of them, it is some sort of sport or activity that they were involved in high school that has defined them. And the sad part is that at 18, maybe 19, these kids are nostalgic for the good old days, because they kind of feel like the only thing that was really worthwhile was that thing that I was involved in high school that I was really good at, whether that be football or the drama team or the glee club or the choir or whatever. And they may not be good enough to be involved on that level in college. And so they suddenly have this kind of identity crisis, and they don't have a plan B. They don't have any other options, because their life was so consumed with always going and doing that particular activity or all sports or anything that had anything to do with speaking or singing, that when that's taken away, it's who am I and what do I do? And my life will never hit that peak again. I actually had a young man say with all seriousness that he thought that was the high point of his life.
Yeah.
And he's 18. And you're thinking, what might have happened if these individuals had spent a little more time just developing who they were outside of those activities?
Right.
And I know that sounds really philosophic and maybe like psychobabble, but it isn't in reality.
We're not above psychobabble.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, there you go. Psychobabble sometimes might be correct.
Exactly.
That grounding them in a family structure, in a community structure, teaching them how to be alone and enjoy it, teaching them how to be quiet and finding themselves and fulfillment in quietness and in meditation and contemplation, that those are also equally valid and self-affirming and life-affirming activities.